black and so alone. I know it's not real, but it's in my soul. And I just can't try to face the dark inside my head. You know I'll never disappear. Now get me out of here. Just trust in me, my dear. No cure is coming, you know. I'll never disappear. Now get us out of here. Don't trust in me, my dear. What cure is coming near? Juno was mad, he knew he'd been had, so he shot at the sun with a gun. Shot at the sun with a gun. Shot at his wily one, only friend. In the gallows or the ghetto, in the town or the meadow, in the billows, even over the sun, every end of the time is another big gun. You understand, mechanical hands are the ruler of everything. Ruler of everything. I'm the ruler of everything in the end. Do you like how I dance? I've got to go neon pants. Consequential enough to slip you into a trance. Do you like how I walk? Do you like how I talk? Do you like how my face is interacting? I have a wonderful wife, I have a powerful job. She criticizes me for being egocentric. You practice your mannerisms into the wall. If there's zero there, I can stand it so tall. I saw you tower over Clovis on the side of the hill. I was observing the birds circling for the kill. I've been you, I know you, your facade is a scam. You know you're making me cry, this is the way that I am. I've been living a lie, metamorphical scheme. Detective undercover, brotherhood, objective obscene. Oh no, no, yeah. Do you hear the flippity chippity chipper chipper within? Oh my god, I've gotta get out of here or I have another word to tell, another story to tell, another timepiece ringing the bell. Do you hear the clock stop when you reach the end? No, you know it must be never ending, comprehend if you can. But when you try to pretend to understand, you're a similar fool. Although you're only a man, so give it up and smile. Do you hear the flippity chippity chipper chipper within? Oh my god, I've gotta get out of here or I have another word to tell, another story to tell, another timepiece ringing the bell. Do you hear the clock stop when you reach the end? No, you know it must be never ending, comprehend if you can. But when you try to pretend to understand, you're a similar fool. Although you're only a man, so give it up and smile. You understand, mechanical hands are the ruler of everything. Ruler of everything. I'm the ruler of everything in the end. Without looking down, gliding around like a bumbling dragon I fly, scraping my face in the sky. Oh no, no, oh yeah.
Hello? Okay. Sorry about that. Hello everyone. A little bit of a technical issue there, but once again, welcome back to this, your very own, very cozy and humble little workshop where we are currently working on our evil neuro puppet. Can you hear me now? Yeah, it seems like you can hear me. Even my stream is already making some sound. I'm gonna mute that. I got a couple devices flying around just to make sure that everything's alright, but I usually have them muted because I don't want the repeats of my voice running again and again. Thanks for the notice, Stelfink. Good to have you here. Otherwise I might have ended up making the whole stream muted. Good to see you. Hi, good to see you back. So yeah, we are currently working on new faces for good old little evil. I can show you how the faces that we made last time turned out. So, okay, here's the eyelids that we had last time. I'm gonna make a bit of a zoom in so you can see properly. Whoop. Alright, give it a little bit of time in order for it to focus. There we go. So, these are the eyelids. Attempt number 2, because on the last stream when we tried to pull this out of our base head, they ended up breaking, so we had to make new ones on last stream, and those are the ones we made on our last stream. The other ones, I believe they're completely torn to pieces somewhere around there. As you might notice, we are today on the other side of the table, and that's because if everything goes according to plan, we are probably gonna have a little bit of an airbrush stream today. So yeah, this is the eyebrow that we made last time. It's just, you know, the smooth piece for the eyebrows and the 2 shells made for the eyelids. I really liked how this one's turned out. If you remember last ones, they had a little bit of an edge back here, and this one still has a little bit of an edge over here on this side. But it's not as much as in the last one. And this one is completely smooth. This one, it means that it's perfectly following the shape of the eye. So I feel like this one's gonna fit much better than the other one. But yeah, I feel like this one is already set and ready to get into painting. We also worked on our little mouths. Can leave this one. I can also put this one's here. These are the other mouths that we've been working on. Just similar to Evil's new model, with a tiny little evil fang on the upper right corner. We have just generic shapes that we can use for many different scenarios, something a little bit universal, and we have sort of a tiny open mouth, a wider open mouth. Oh, you cannot see that anything from over there. Let me turn them around. So I'm not sure what a chuni is, but I've always felt that evil's just pretending to be evil. We have conclusive evidence that Neuro is more evil than evil, actually, right? With the objectively, she has shocked Beetle more times than evil has, and I believe that would make her the evil twin. And probably Filion. I'm not sure if evil has ever shocked Filion. Neuro has. She certainly has. So these are the little 3 mouths that we have lying around. It's closed mouth. I feel like this one's a little bit hard to see because it's got a little bit of dust still inside of the shape, but this is something that we're also gonna be painting more with a brush because it's a very thin line. It's not gonna work with an airbrush, but yeah, we have the closed mouth. If I remove that white dust, it will be a little bit easier to read. Maybe not, but yeah. The slightly open mouth and the very open mouth, which is still a little bit small. I don't feel like this is a full-on shout mouth, but Evil and Neuro, both of them generally have very small mouths. I even believe that I went a little bit overboard with how big they were, but that's fine because it's gonna make it more readable in different poses, different angles, and different distances from the camera. So we are fine with that. So that's what we were working on last time between streams. The only thing I did was just sand them a little bit, make sure that everything was in place, and yeah, sanding the edges and just giving them a little bit of a wash. That's what I was doing a couple of hours before stream. I was actually in a bit of a rush because I feared that I was not gonna make it in time, but here we are. I feel like they're doing all right, and yeah, hopefully we can paint these at the end of stream. But before that, there are another couple of things I would like to do, mostly because I would like to take advantage of the time and how long it takes for the stuff to harden. First, I would like to make another pair of eyelets. This time it's gonna be less of a closed eyelid. I want to make more of an angry shaped eyelid, and hopefully it turns out alright. Not maybe I'll just stay with one first layer of clay, and maybe we can later on finish the details, but I would like to get that started just because, as you know, the epoxy tends to take its own time in order to harden. So I feel like if we start with this, I might be able to see it how it turned out later on stream, and we can take the time that it takes for it to dry to start working on the other mouths and eyelids and everything we have around here. That's something that I also find very fun about making all these puppets and little dolls and things, that you have to be very careful around time management, not in the general sense of time management of figuring things out and having a good schedule, but also every material needs its own time to dry, so you have to be strategic. Like, okay, if I put the printer right now and it takes 3 hours to print, then I can spend those 3 hours sanding this thing, and by the time it's done printing, so you have to start to schedule all of the different processes in order that you don't have a lot of dead time just waiting for things to either dry or harden or finish printing. And yeah, that's part of what I try to do whenever I'm thinking about what I'm gonna do on one stream or the other. Is maybe we have enough time. You've seen it before. Whenever we make strands, I like to do them at the beginning of the stream, because I would like it to be ready by the end of the stream, and then you can see it, the mold being opened, and you can see the whole process in just one sitting. But yeah, there's a lot of having to figure out how much time something takes, and if you have enough time to wait for it, or maybe that's a good way to schedule whenever you're gonna go for lunch, that sort of stuff. Let me take a look at the comments, because I've been... Let's see. 8th graders in the movie. Oh, Chunibyo, yeah. She does feel a lot like Chunibyo to me. I remember seeing Chunibyo way back in the past. I just dropped a little bit of clay. But yeah, she does feel... she does feel a bit like that. It feels like she's acting most of the time, and she's sometimes acting to hide the other things that she does, and it's like she's always pretending, and you don't even know what is the what is the act anymore. If the part of where she's trying to hide what she was doing, or the part of what she did and she's right now trying to act. Like whenever she got scared when playing Minecraft and that sort of stuff, I feel like she's always doing weird things and doesn't even really know herself what she wants or how she likes to act. I feel like that's a bit of her charm. Oh, we have a little beetle guy still all torn into pieces. I'm just gonna grab a little bit of his face so we can mix up this clay and we can try and sculpt. Oh, wait. we're making the same mistake we made last time, or in the previous phase, that we haven't applied any release agents to this. So before, the first time I did this, I only used Vaseline, but it turned out it did stick too much and it ended up breaking. So what I did on our last stream, and what I'm gonna try to do, just as I feel like it's a bit of an overkill, but I'd rather be cautious than lose more pieces and more work. So what I've been doing is applying first a single layer of release agent, which is a spray-on release agent that I have lying around here. It's ease release 200. And then waiting for it to dry a bit and then applying. Oh, I should have done this earlier then. You see how you scheduled timing with this? Now we're gonna have to wait a little bit for this to dry too. But well, so here we have it. This is our first release agent. This is sort of the fancier one. I just like to use a little bit just to make sure it doesn't stick to the eyes like the last one. There we go. Nice and wet. You can just leave it here for a while and it's gonna dry. And now we're back to those sort of issues that I was telling you before. We have to wait for this, and now we don't have anything to do. Well, we could move on to the painting, but I really want to start with this. I guess what we could do that is sort of fast, just opening this guy. Me go back with the camera so you can see. So you know this guy. It's a little hair strand mold that we made, the second one because the first one broke. But this is a very special hair strand, because if everything goes according to plan and everything, if my numbers are right, this should be the last hair strand we need for Evil's head. So this is our hair strand number 16, and I drilled 16 holes into Evil's head. So that means that this mold, at least for the time being, while we're working on this Eliv'S puppet, is gonna make it. There we go. Our nice final hair strand. But yeah, the mold is still working alright, and I feel like we can still keep using this one for later into the future. Most likely when we start working on regular neuro with probably another colored silicone, but I feel like this mold's gonna keep on lasting and working. But yeah, so take a look at that. That's our final hair strand. Also, I really like how this mold turned out, because it sort of feels like it pushes a lot more the sides of the mold, and you can see the membrane on the side is so thin that it's almost transparent. You can see my finger through membrane. That's how thin the silicone is back there, and that's great because it's gonna make it easier to clean, and it's gonna be prettier once we end up sanding it. It's gonna look much cleaner and be less work to get these into an animatable quality, like stage quality point. So yeah, these are the strands. They're great. I'm really loving this resin molds. I might start moving more towards them in the future. Problem with resin is that it shrinks too much, and that can be an issue sometimes. Sometimes things can crack, so a very large mold, like a full puppet mold, might be risky, or you might have to cast it in many different layers, but I feel like it really did give good results. I might consider trying it and experimenting with it a little bit more. That does sound a little like evil Nura. She acts evil, but she's feel like she's concerned whenever the audience goes like that. I remember another story. I'm pretty sure it was evil, but it might have been Neuro, that she was banning people who were making fun of people for having lisps. And that felt very wholesome too. Yeah, I've seen that she does that sort of thing, that whenever someone messes with it, like she can jokingly mess with the chat, but if someone else messes with the chat, or if she feels it's not a joke anymore, she can get a little bit more serious and not really concerned, but yeah, like she wants the best for her little chat. She's a kind soul, good little evil. I saw the stream of Neuro buying stuff, and that they were buying $2,000 worth of things on the internet. Hey Roman, good to see you. And I saw that Neuro was filling captchas, so I thought it would be fun to make them like challenge each other and see who can solve more captchas in less time. I think that would be fun. Evil versus Neuro. Who's less of a robot? Who is not a robot? Alright, so it seems like it's already dried. You can see still glossy, but it's just not, it doesn't look wet anymore. Working on camera, right? Yeah. And just as a little bit more of an extra layer of security, because I do not want to lose a set of eyebrows again. I'm just gonna apply a thin coat of good old Vaseline. Just to make sure that nothing sticks to my prototyping base. I don't really want anything stick here and having to make another one. Yeah, it sounds fun, right? I mean, Neuro definitely beat Philly into filling captchas, which was really fun too. But yeah, I would love to see a AI versus AI hand-to-hand captcha tournament. Ah, yes, the bouncy castle for her wedding, right? And they almost bought a $13,000 excavator. Alright, so we've got this well greased up. Let's just put. So the important part with this one, for that edge to really look as clean as possible, like this one, is to just make sure that this piece is really well put in place. I'd rather put this one first and then the other one with the mouth, because right now it's not the mouth that we're sculpting, it's more of the eyebrow, and we want it to be in the most perfect shape possible, because any irregularity might not snap in perfectly into her face, and that could give you a lot of issues and struggles, because sometimes that sort of things don't when it doesn't match, the head might end up being too separated from the face, and it's a little bit of a hassle. So it's better if you just make sure this one is in place, and if the mouth is not perfectly in place, it's not that big of an issue. You're not really caring about the mouth right now, and even the mouths, they don't tend to be deformed as much because you're not sculpting around the edges that are the parts that have to perfectly match your base. With the mouth, you're mostly sculpting the center, so it doesn't mind that you're distorting the center. It minds when you're distorting the edges and this sort of little details. So yeah, I'm making sure this one is in place, and then I'll just put this one randomly without much concern. Oh no. Knowing her, she would probably plan some weird stream idea with that. She's always making the wildest sort of streams. I feel like she would come up with something. Probably not something very safe. Alright, so let's mix our clay. Make sure this is still in place. It might move whenever I move the little head. So I try to make sure every once in a while that stuff is in place. So I'm gonna try to make a bit angrier eyebrows. I'm not sure if these are actually going to work. I hope they do. But the thing with their eyebrows is that they're usually sort of X-ray eyebrows. Because they work, you can see both of their eyebrows through the hair that's running in front of her face, and that's not something we can really do in our craft. So I'm not quite certain if this is gonna be even noticeable once we are animating the puppet, but I'm willing to give it a try, and hopefully it does, because if we do, even if it's subtle, having a bit of an emotional range can really give you a very, very good. Yeah, it makes everything feel more alive. Even if you only have small expressions and just a few, they can really go far in how much life you can put into a puppet. I mean, most of the animation I've made were just using 3 different sort of emotional sets. If I would have sad, angry, and neutral. That would be more than enough for making the characters feel alive. Today, this is Jackson Billion, and today we're doing a whole and a bit. Yes, that does sound. I'm not sure, because I feel like Fillion just wouldn't do that. Something in public just because she doesn't want to be seen outside. But she's pretty capable of doing all sorts of chaos. I'm just gonna try and sculpt this however I feel like it's gonna work. What works with angry eyebrows is just making a very evident straight line downwards. I didn't bring any of my sculpting tools to this side of the table, haha. So, give me 1 second. Alright, so Roman is asking what he missed last stream. Last time on our little workshop, we were working on... Yeah, definitely digging a hole in her apartment's floor. We were working on these faces. We ended up opening our closed eyelids, and when we opened them, the eyelid cracked and it broke apart, and we had to start over. So we had to remove the remainders of the green eyelids that we already had and resculpted these. And we got this finished on last stream, and barely at the beginning of the stream I just took them out. And they feel much sturdier, much better, a little bit better in the back. And we also sculpted details in the mouths. We have now the fangs. She has her little evil fang in both of her open mouths. We already had that in the closed one, but that's pretty much what we did. It doesn't feel like a lot, but sculpting is one of the slower, more patience, more patience-heavy sides of the work. So you have to just grind through it. There's no way around it. That's why sculpting can be sort of one of the parts that most slows down production. Because you really need to spend proper amount of time making sure everything's in its place, that everything's well sanded down. Let's try this a little bit more backwards. There we go. Okay. Feels weird because I see it and because it's another color, it feels like a big blob. It doesn't really feel like a part of the face, but I have to sort of imagine it because that's all I have. But eventually when I paint it, I'm gonna be able to make sure it's alright. It works sort of harder edge. Maybe we can later on add a little bit of a bulge on top of near the center of the brow, so you have that muscle mass that pulls to the center. But I feel like this could work. They feel pretty thick. Sure, they should be thinner. Maybe I could remove a bit of material. Get another tool. Work. And this one. Part that I found a little bit tough with this epoxy clay is that it's not as good at removing the material. When you're working with clay, it just slides off, but here it sort of pulls the rest of the material a bit and it feels a little bit aggressive whenever you're removing material. I feel like epoxy, at least this brand specifically, it's more of a positive process. You need to try to add and work on what you're adding. But if you try to remove, you can do it, but you will lose a bit of progress. If you are on the final part of detailing and you try to remove, you can see it, right? If I try to do, well, you're a little bit far away. Give me 1 second. I really like this camera because it gives me a lot of room to go zoom out, zoom in without having to spend a lot of time working on the setup. But yeah. So if I scratch this, you can see all those marks that it leaves. It's not really a pretty look for it, but at least it helps you remove the material. Just tore it out completely off. But yeah, it's more of a positive process where it's better if you just start adding and adding more material. But well, sometimes you just need to remove it. But yeah, it's better if you do that early on when you're barely applying your basic shapes. Because if you're already detailing stuff and you try to remove material because you realize maybe you overdid it with something, yeah, it's gonna be sort of a... Yeah, well, you'll have to pretty much start over because you're gonna be damaging all the surface and finished texture that you already had. So yeah, I think it's a good idea to make a harpoon and some pipes if any possible. I've been thinking about that. I might consider the harpoon. Do you know if there's any sort of official design of Evil's harpoon, or should I just try and find... Because I've seen some harpoons in fan art and stuff, but I've never seen sort of a sort of like an official, this is Evil's harpoon with a black handle and a blue tube, or I don't know. But yeah, I have been considering making the harpoon. I feel like that would be a fun, sort of simple, not very complicated stream for working on the computer. Maybe if we need a break, sort of a little pause before we start with animation, while I'm getting things prepared, that sort of stuff. But yeah, I would like to see if there's any official design, so I can focus on that one. And if not, well, I'll just Google a cool harpoon, try to make that. But I don't. It sounds fun, however, I haven't thought on what could I do with a harpoon, or what could she do with a harpoon. Oh yeah, I had thought of something before. Maybe something like target practice, that she having the harpoon and throwing it against a Beetle cutout, or something like that, and just pulling the harpoon back and trying again and again, just to see if she lands a hit. But I'm not sure if there's any clip or something funnier for me to animate taking advantage of the harpoon. There's no official harpoon. If your animation goes viral, you might define that. That would be fun. Alright, I'll try to then do a little bit of historical research and find me a good old harpoon for her, one that would make her happy. But yeah, it sounds fun, but right now we'll leave it on the maybe chart, just because I'm not sure how much time we're gonna be spending on the rest of the one having her ready for animation. It feels likely that I could spend a little bit of time. I mean, a harpoon doesn't sound that complicated. It sounds about like, yeah, probably in one stream of work it would be done. Especially because what I like about working for stop motion and 3D is that you don't really need to work with textures. It's all geometry. So you don't have to struggle with UV unwrapping or with, cleanup of your geometry. You can just go all out, make stuff sort of in a prototypey, very quick way, send it to the printer, and you are done. Now the printer is gonna be the big halt, because the printer can be a little bit slow. With the harpoon, I mean, considering her size, I would think the harpoon would be at least 10 centimeters long. And for a 10 centimeters long harpoon, that's about a full day of 3D printing on the resin printer. It's fine, I can leave it on overnight and stuff, but it does take its time. I didn't know anything about Eliv'S Pet Xenomorph. I haven't seen that clip. I'm not sure what that it's from. You mean the Xenomorph from the Alien movies? That would be fun, but it does feel a bit complicated. I feel like if I was gonna make something like that, it would probably be maybe me buying a toy Xenomorph and using that for animation, because making one from scratch, that's gonna be even more work than actually making Evil herself. But maybe if I find a toy, I can use that. I'll look for those clips. I have never seen her talking about any sort of Xenomorph. You make a harpoon that made of metal, wire, and a simple handle. I'm not sure if I would make it with metal because of, shaping it would be a little bit hard, and I don't have the right tools for fully making metal shapes. But I could make wire and hand. Not sure what to make the handle with. I honestly think I could go with 3D print approach. Oh, maybe you're right. Maybe I can make it with just some material that I have lying around, but the harpoon part is the one that sounds tricky because that does feel like it would need sort of metal machining tools that I do not have. I'll give it some thought and see what I can come up with, but at least right now, with what I know, what I have experience on, what I feel I'm capable of working on, I think the 3D printer would be the easier solution. Yeah, maybe probably adding some details like fake leather to the straw or to the handle, and maybe a rope for it to be pulled down. Usually the harpoon is tied to something, right? So, and ropes are one of the biggest challenges in animation. Whenever I work in animation, ropes, strings, ribbons, all those sort of things, they tend to be the toughest part. Usually not for the animators. Animators usually love making ribbons, which includes me. I really like making that's why I'm making those hair strands so thin and wide and long, because animating those are really fun. But the rigging whenever you're making a rope in 3D is absolute hell, but in 2D, well, in stop motion, sorry, it's not impossible, but it's rough because it's hard to make it feel like actual rope, and it doesn't look like it has a wire running in the middle. So that's one of the sort of a tricky thing, but feels like something I could certainly give a try, see how it goes. Alright. Yeah, YouTube tends to be like that. I think I've never received the link here from anyone. I remember people mentioning them. I've been looking into the making a Discord server, but in the meantime, you can find me on X or Twitter. I like Twitter more. You can find me on Twitter and send me a message there, or well, just post. Post it. Make a post and I don't know how to speak in social networks. Yeah, make a post and tag me or something, and maybe I can see it there if it's not working here on YouTube. We'll have a Discord server eventually. I'm already looking into that, but I'm not really good at that, at managing this sort of platform. So I'm trying to learn, but that's going to take time. I don't know what Angel's Egg is. I'll give it a quick search. Oh yeah, remember, you don't use... I haven't seen Angel's Egg, so I'm not sure what you mean with that, but usually those sorts of effects in those and in those 2D animated movies, especially those old ones, they tend to be a bit of a flex. Effects tend to be a branch of their own in 2D animation. Making fire and water, but its own very internal science. I feel like there's animators that only do that. Well, it happens in all the brand. Well, no, in stop motion usually the animator has to do everything. But in 3D you have simulation artists, and in 2D you have some animators that sometimes focus only on that sort of effects, like water and air and fire. There was a book that I always wanted to buy that's all about how to make convincing effects for smoke and fire and wind. It's called Elemental Magic. And yeah, it looked really interesting to me. But yeah, that sort of things, sometimes they're really hard to pull off. Even in 2D where you can pretty much do anything because, well, it's just drawing and there's no limitation other than your own hand. But that doesn't mean things can't get hard, and that sort of continuity and the thickness of the line and things feeling physical and like they're being pulled logically, yeah, they tend to be very, very tricky. Yeah, you're right. It should be called Twitter. I don't know why I call it X. I just I've never really used it that much, and so I guess I just go with flow. But yeah, I also prefer it to be called Twitter. The bush column of smoke. Yeah, you know what works great for smoke? Or more for explosions. Cotton works great, and yeah, applying a little bit of extra color with an airbrush or spray paint, that also helps a lot. But what I feel like always gives it a great effect is putting light inside of the cotton. That gives it this very cloud-like feeling of the light passing through, and yeah, that's something I really love. That's an effect that it always works really well for me. It's tricky because you need to be careful of where you place the lights, how you place them, how intense they are, but it really pays off. I really love that effect. Yeah, but I feel like official news and they're sort of biased and need to use the official names because of sort of corporate reasons. But come on, nobody wants to call that thing X. It's starting to feel angrier, though I don't want it to be. Let's see. Like they're turning out a bit thick, but I guess that's better than having them too thin and break later on. I'll try and move a bit of material back here because it feels like... Have I been working on camera? Because sometimes I feel like I get carried away and stop and start moving things and work completely out of frame. But I feel like this time I've been sort of working close enough to in frame. Oh, also, by the way, I changed something else for today's stream. I'm not sure if you even noticed or had to see it, but I changed the stream, I don't know how to call it, stream type, so that instead of just starting playing, you had the sort of a, what do you call it, a waiting room maybe, where you had the thumbnail and you could just wait for the stream to start, because I heard that maybe that would be helpful for some to not miss it. I'm not sure if anyone noticed the difference or really saw it, but just wanted to ask you so I know what to work on. Well, if you like me to keep doing that, or if you want me to stay on the other format. You're making fun of Frankel? Yeah, great. Where could I see it then? Because I'm not sure. Are you gonna post it on YouTube? I don't. Probably not. I'm not even sure if I can move towards your account. You can from here in the chat. But yeah, let me know once you publish it, and maybe I'll try to find you. Where do you want me to search for you? Should I go on Twitter or on Instagram? I'll have a look and see what your fan art is. By the way, Rankeld is coming really soon. It's gonna be on June 6th. This is gonna be the great first screening of the film. Fortunately, I'm not gonna be able to be there because it's somewhere in another city, but I hope it does great. I'm kind of excited to see how everything goes. For anyone who doesn't know, Frankelda is the name of the TV series in which I worked a long time ago, about 2 to 3 years, and then I worked on a feature film, and then that feature film, the animation concluded about 1.5 years ago. That's when I started working on by myself and my own things, and I really want to keep on working on my own stuff for a while. At least in the time they were working on the post-production and all of that sort of boring stuff in the movie. But it's finally coming out. So I'm kind of excited to see how it does, how people like it. I'm not sure when I'm gonna be able to see it, because I would need to be screened somewhere a little bit closer by. But yeah, a little bit of the general history. I don't want anyone to feel left out whenever I start rambling with all that stuff. I wasn't there when the stream started, but it's cool that you have a little intro now. It's not that much of an intro. I would like to have an animated intro eventually, but now it's more like, you know, the waiting room thingy when you have just a postcard and not a postcard, a thumbnail, and it says the stream starts at 2 o'clock. Wait, and you can even ring the bell for that event specifically, and you can be notified once it starts and that sort of thing. It's not that much of an animation. I want to get that a sort of animated starting screen, but I feel like that's really gonna have to wait a while. I'd rather finish this girl than spend time with all that sort of things. I want to help this community grow and start to sort of, how do you call it, settle down, maybe? Not sure if that's the right word, but yeah. But in order for that, but I don't want to spend a lot of time doing that. I'm trying to work on the Discord server so we can start sort of sharing stuff a little bit more easily, because you can never send me any links and that's a little bit rough. And I made a little avatar thingy that I have now in this bottom right corner, which is fun. But yeah, right now I want to really make, well, actually make puppets and stuff. I like the part of being a streamer, but I feel like I'm a stop motion artist first. That's my big priority. But I want to improve on all the streaming side of things and make this much more comfortable for everyone, help more people join in. But yeah, I'd rather take those things one step at a time. I don't have that much of a hurry or a rush. And I feel like we're having fun as we are right now, even if we're just a few people chatting, sharing and having fun and laughing at Billions' misery or Beatles' misery. But yeah. Instagram and Twitter. Alright, I'll see if I can find your username, if you run by the same name, and if not, well, you can let me know later on or something in another stream. Clips are important. Yeah, I know that clips are important. I'm not even sure if anything I sort of do is that clip worthy. I feel like I'm not really that good into the big content farming part of, I don't know, making, I feel like those sort of clips tend to be very wild, out there things. Like, oh, if I don't finish sculpting this, I'm gonna eat a habanero pepper and I'm gonna die on stream and that's gonna be fun, yay! But I don't feel like I have that sort of crazy spark moment to really brag about. Feels like it's blah. Here it's a little bit more calming and soothing, and just chatting, and I might ramble on some interesting topics of it, but I'm not sure if they're interesting enough to hook someone with a clip. I'll probably rewatch some streams and see if I find any worthy pieces. But yeah, I know that clips are important, and I have been thinking on them for a while, but just trying to sort of find the solutions, but not really full time dedicating to getting those clips, because yeah, I still have work to do with this. But yeah, I understand your point, and you're always giving great advice on the whole streaming environment. However, I'm not savvy enough to make all those things right away. But I'm taking into account pretty much all of the little advice you've been given every single time. I'm just trying to find what can I solve as soon as possible and without spending too much time on it. I've also been talking to friends so that maybe they can help me maybe set up the Discord server. There's people that have a little bit more experience with that sort of things. Maybe they can help me out so it's not that much work for me to figure out and then do it. And maybe they could help me make this much faster and help us grow. But once again, it's fine talking like that. I think like we should enjoy our time when we are just a few chatting around, because we might eventually not. We'll be flooded with a lot of people. The Hammer Smash Turtle was not really popular. I did see the clip, but I'm not sure if I saw it too early to sort of see the results. I remember it had a couple of reactions, maybe 5 or 6, but didn't see if after a couple of days it had a little bit more interaction. That would be a lot of clay beetles. This clay beetle took already long enough to make. I mean, it's not like it takes 10 days to make this guy, but it took, what? Maybe about half an hour? And it takes a lot of clay. But maybe I could make smaller ones. I could make a mold and start making them en masse. My poor little airbrush is already starting to complain that I'm not using him. I'm just gonna try to wrap this. I think like we could leave this sort of how it is right now and only add a tiny extra layer later on once this hardens. I'm just gonna make sure it's as symmetrical as possible, okay? And then we can move on to our airbrush. There's a plane flying right above my head right now. But you probably can't hear that, right? I've rewatched some streams and I realized that whatever's more than 1 meter away from the microphone is sometimes very hard to catch up. Swarm will come. Sure. I'll be waiting for them, but there's no hurry. I like to have people that come to be people who actually enjoy it, who are actually curious, and I don't mind. I mean, if other people want to pop by, that's fine, but we don't have that much of a hurry. We can take it easy. It's our comfortable and cozy little workshop. It doesn't need to be all... doesn't need to be stressful. Life is already stressful enough as it is. I like this to be enjoyable. I'd rather keep it that way than having a huge audience. Not that I'm not trying to pursue it, I'm just not gonna get stressed about it. We can have fun, and that's all that matters. Alright, so I feel like this could stay like this for a while. It's not final, but I want it to dry and just add a little bit more of an eyebrow in the middle. Sort of like, yeah, the muscle that joins in the center of the forehead, but because this is still very soft, working outside the frame, but because this is still very soft, I would rather wait a bit, and probably by the end of stream it will be hard enough for us to work, even though I'm not sure how much time that will take, so we'll see if we get to that tonight, and if not, don't mind. Alright, so now we can move on to painting. Also, I had. Where did you go? I'm also gonna paint the head too, because if you remember last time when we hammered this thing in, we ended up damaging a little bit of the bottom. We lost a little bit of paint. It was a little bit more like cracked, but I just sanded a little bit the edge in order for us to have more of a smooth surface, so I can apply another coat of paint and it feels good as new. But yeah, so that's what I'm planning to do with the head. That's why I have it lying around. The main event is gonna be this 4 guys. Just gonna be just painting them. I'm gonna try, first I'm gonna apply a coat of white just so the colors stay. Here I have the base mount, the original evil. So I'm just gonna apply first the base coat of white, then I'm gonna apply a coat of skin tone. And I'm not sure if that's gonna be this stream or maybe the next, but once the skin tone has already settled in, I'll apply a very soft, this little extra bit of red in the cheeks, just so she feels a little bit more alive. When you only apply the skin tone, when I made this, and they were just one flat color, they felt very, very dry. They didn't feel alive. They felt a lot like a doll. So I'm gonna try to just add that little extra red, but I'm not sure if we'll have time for that tonight. We'll see. Anyway, so let's get that started. My airbrush right here. Might have to open up the shot. Alright, give me 1 second, I'll be right back. Alright, and someone says, speaking of stress, in a Nero stream, Nero was looking for jokes for her comedy special. It said, why did the filter cross the road? I'm coming out of a... Oh really? He called you a... Oh, that's fun. Never really... always only lurked in Evil and Nero streams. I've never really commented anything. Maybe I might participate in one occasional poll, but usually I can't even do that because I might listen to them, but I'm usually with my hands busy working on something like this. So don't be a baby. That does sound like Neuro. So, if you remember back last time, for this we use a bit of not silicone thinner, acrylic thinner, which is a special recipe I got from a YouTube channel called Barbados Rex, who's a really good painter guy. He has his own brand of acrylic paints and he seems like a very well-known artist and he knows what he's doing. I don't really feel like I know what I'm doing that much with the airbrush. I'm pretty new to it, but he's great at giving advice. And he has this recipe for a very simple acrylic thinner that's made of pretty much water, alcohol, and a couple of additives that you just need a couple of drops of. And well, you just use about, I don't know, maybe a couple of milliliters for every piece of a puppet you make, so it does last a long time. That's a good way to save on materials, because you can find some very fancy acrylic thinners that can end up being too pricey. So I'm gonna use that. I'm gonna use another mix. That's the airbrush cleaner, which is another mix by the good old Barbados Rex. My really nice Windex solution and paint. I use a lot of acrylic paints and I thin them down. That's about all we need for this to work. So let's start with just a little bit of white paint for a general coat. Oh, she even said your name out loud. It feels like a lot of stress. And did you say anything? Or in the end, you didn't. You didn't reply. So last time we were using this cup, which is a little bit too big. I feel like it ends up using too much paint, and you don't have, because a lot of space, you don't have to. You end up having to mix too much material. Sometimes it's not worth it. So I want to try with a little bit of a smaller cup. I have a couple of those lying around over here. Ah, they don't fall. Ah. There we go. 1 cup. I feel like this small one might be easier to work with. Also, I like this one because they have a cap, so I can just close them, and if I could keep the color around for further batches. Oh, she called all the attention upon you, and then she just didn't read your reply. Apply a bit of good old acrylic thinner. And let's try to mix this guy well. I'm a little bit concerned about this one because last time I was wearing a microphone, which I felt like was a little bit safer because it was next to my body, but this time I have this microphone hanging on top of the table, and I feel like it will end up all covered in paint. Oh well, we'll see. I'll give it a shot and just try to be careful. Alright, so this feels... I've always had a rough time because I feel like there's a very specific texture you want when you're mixing paint or when you're thinning paint for the airbrush. There's a lot of advice that you need it to feel like milk, just in that thickness, but I've never really caught on exactly how thin it is, and I don't feel like I'm really able to notice that much of a difference. But I might be able to develop that ability, but I feel like this could be enough. It's something that's very intuitive. I feel like there's no accurate measurements. Like you need 2 milliliters of this and 5 milliliters of that, especially because paint brands are different everywhere. So I guess there's not a single rule to follow. It's more like something that you go with your gut with. Sometimes I feel I'm kind of bad with, but let's see. So I just thin this out. Hey, VTuber, who has a beautiful... I think you mentioned some last time, and I'm sorry I haven't checked those out. Are you talking about the one... You mentioned the Russian one before. Project Veronica, Project Viola. Project Viola, I think, but I did not Google that one. I forgot until now. But yeah, you can suggest as many as you'd like. Please do. I'll take a look if I manage to remember this time. Sorry about that one, about not remembering before. But yeah, go ahead. All right. So I'm just gonna apply a very light layer of white on top of these. Let it dry and maybe apply a second one. This just so I get, for starters, to have the same base color, because I don't want the mouths to be sort of darker near the green part. Yeah, it feels like. All right, good to know. Can you see these mouths? How it's sort of making blobs instead of actually painting the surface. That means that it's too much thinner and too little paint. So I'm gonna go back, throw this into the cup and add a little bit more paint. But at least this I know how to notice something going wrong. But yeah, when you have this sort of drops forming on the top, that means it's too much thinner and too little paint. So I'm gonna give this quick clean up with my brush. Another cup with cleaner, but I can get that eventually. Right, so let's have this. Project Viola, yes, I did remember the name, I just haven't searched for her. And so I can find her on Twitch or on YouTube. Probably on YouTube I can find clips either way, but I'm not sure what her official channel is. Probably Twitch, I guess. So let's add a bit more paint. Alright, I might give her a search. At what times does she stream? Is it somewhere around Evil's time, or it's... Oh well, Neuro's time? That's about noon for me. But that's somewhere around 5 p.m. or 8 p.m. in UK time, right? So with Russia, I would imagine that will be even later. Associate YouTube channel ID pretty comprehensive by the looks of it. Alright, I'll give it a look. Probably later on. It's a little bit hard to work with the computer with my hands full of different materials and with the gloves and all that. But yeah, I promise I'm gonna be taking a look at that this time. Sorry about that. And does she stream in Russian, or is it... You said she was Russian, right? But or is it in English, just for general audiences? Or how do you understand? Does she have subtitles, maybe? Usually 2 hours before Nero starts. Yeah, that's a little bit early for me. I'm not sure if I'm gonna be able to catch it live, but I can watch a VOD probably. Oh, Viola is in the Russian one? Oh, okay. Alright, so let's see if this time the thickness is more what we need. Can you see anything? Oh, that's fine. Alright, feels more stable. Less drops forming on the surface. A little bit hard to see because there are the past. Nope, there's still drops. Okay. Alright. Apply. And code here. The idea of the last one. So I'm gonna use the mouth as a pivot place. So I'm trying not to touch the surface, the one that where I want the paint to stay. But inside the mouth I don't mind because I'm gonna be painting that anyways later on. And also in the back of the face, I don't really mind. Because, yeah, that's not something that's gonna be visible anytime during the animation. English. Alright, I'll have a look at it then. Project Viola. Make sure I don't forget to actually look for her. And do you think Viola is capable of solving captchas? This one's a little bit harder to move because it doesn't have a mouth for me to poke around. I mean, well, yeah, sort of time zone ducks. You might be able to figure out in which slice of the world I live in. No. Oh. I'm gonna make a bit of a wider shot just so you can see a bit more and I don't have to struggle with where I'm working. This one gonna apply.
silence. A rhapsody for you and me. And every melody is timeless. Life was stringing me along. Then you came and you cut me loose. Was solo singing on my own. Now I can't find the key without you. And now your song is on repeat. And I'm dancing on to your heartbeat. And when you're gone, I feel incomplete. So if you want to see, I just wanna be part of your
By the way, can you hear me on top of the airbrush? I would think that it wouldn't make it hard to understand when I'm using it, but just want to make sure my voice can go through without the airbrush making it hard to understand. I'm gonna remove this. I'm gonna put back the paint that I got here. Feels like it's getting the paint's not going through, so I'm gonna check this. Maybe I've already got too much. I don't think the airbrush goes quiet when you talk. Alright, that's interesting. I mean, the part that makes more noise actually is the compressor, and that one's a little farther away. It's all the way to the ground. And the airbrush does give a little bit of a blowing sound, but it's not as noisy as the compressor itself. But yeah, it does feel like it's not hard to understand or for my voice to go through. I just wanted to make sure that everything was nice and well set up, so we could still talk without much of an issue. Alright. I'm just gonna add a little bit of cleaner, give this a little bit of a general check. Maybe just a little bit of the paint got stuck in the middle of the airbrush, so I'm gonna do a little bit of a quick clean just in order to keep going with the white. I'm going to eat dinner. Alright. See you. Enjoy your meal. Really audible compared to the brush. Yeah, well, I think that's because the compressor is all the way in the ground. Might be harder to hear it sometimes. It does weird things because it vibrates a lot. It sort of moves from one side to the other, and sometimes it sort of leans against the leg of the table, And when it does that, it starts to make much more noise because the noise sort of carries through the table's leg. But it hasn't done that now. And even if it did, I'm not sure if it will be that noticeable for you. It's noticeable for me and it's pretty annoying, so I usually just move it, but I'm not sure. It's sort of random when that happens. Making sure it's still working. A bit more clean. The compressor running. Sometimes it runs, but it can't go very far. The wire is very short. All right. So let's go with this. Give it a bit of mix. Make sure everything is well bent. I don't want any sort of blobs inside of it that can clog the airbrush again. Just shot some paint at my neck. Alright, so let's give it another layer. Okay, much better. Yeah. Right. Much faster than before. It's a good thing. done with the white layer. Feels alright. Now, and we could try and use this same white, because we're not gonna make anything else that's white today. Oh, just about to drop all the paint. I always get distracted and carried away when I'm working with the airbrush, and I end up dropping paint everywhere because I remember that I have a tiny cup of paint in my hands, so I always end up making a mess. So let's clean this little guy up. Can you see him? Yeah, over there. Whoop. Okay. And just clean it up real quick. Remove all the excess, remove all the paint that's stuck to the edges. Just pour it out. So when I clean the airbrush, I should like to first grab all the more, sort of bigger amount, most of the paint that's just on the edges, and I just pour it out of the cup, and then I actually add another cup, another sort of, no, not a layer, but I refill the cup, and now it's a little bit easier to clean. However, I might do this maybe 2 or 3 times just so the cup is clean, and then I'm gonna try and actually run the airbrush with the cleaner. Sometimes I feel like you're only passing paint with the cleaner, but it's too much paint to actually clean anything. But if you remove the bigger excess of paint and you're just passing through the airbrush cleaner with a little bit of paint, I feel like it cleans up much faster. Instead of doing things, I don't know, 10 times, you can end up doing it maybe 5, maybe 3. Depends on the paint, depends on how much did you thin it before. Oh, I need to... Last time I made it, I had this little bit extra. It was just a small amount of cleaner that ended up not being able to fit inside the bigger cup I have, so I had it lying around. Now I can use it, and probably today I'm gonna run out of this extra airbrush cleaner. I'm just putting the airbrush on its maximum output mode on another container, just so all of the cleaner spray gets out way over there, and just trying to make sure that it's actually it's working properly. So I'm just gonna leave all the excess outside of range. Faces to dry a little bit. Not our final layer yet, but
Hey, oh, world we're living in. Let me tell ya. And it's a wonder man can eat at all. When things are big that should be small. Who can tell what magic spells we'll be doing for us? And I'm giving all my love to this world, only to be told I can't see, I can't breathe, no more will I be. And nothing's gonna change the way we live, 'cause we can always take but never give. And now that things are changing for the worse, see, whoa, it's a crazy world we're living in. And I just can't see that half of us immersed in sin is all we have to give. These futures made of virtual insanity now always seem to be governed by this love we have for useless twisting of our new technology. Oh, now there is no sound, for we all live underground. And I'm thinking what a mess we're in, hard to know where to begin. If I could slip the sickly ties that earthly man has made. And now every mother can choose the color of her child. That's not nature's way. Well, that's what they said yesterday. There's nothing left to do but pray. I think 'cause I'm found a new religion. Whoa, it's so insane to synthesize another strain. There's something in these futures that we have to feed. So futures made of virtual insanity now always seem to be governed by this love we have for useless twisting of our new technology. Oh, now there is no sound, for we all live underground. Oh, now there is no Virtual insanity is what we're living in. Yeah, well, it's alright. Maybe I'm foolish, maybe I'm blind, thinking I can see through this and see what's behind. Got no way to prove it, so maybe I'm lying. But I'm only human after all. I'm only human after all. Don't put your blame on me. Don't put your blame on me. Take a look in the mirror, what do you see? Do you see it clearer, or are you deceived in what you believe? 'Cause I'm only human after all, and you're only human after all. Don't put the blame on me. Don't put your blame on me. Some people got the real problems. Some people out of luck. Some people think I can solve them. Lord heavens above, I'm only human after all. I'm only human after all. Don't put the blame on me. Don't put the blame on me. Don't ask my opinion, don't ask me to lie. Then beg for forgiveness for making you cry. Making you cry. 'Cause I'm only human after all. I'm only human after all. Don't put your blame on me. Don't put your blame on me. Oh, some people got the real problems. Some people out of luck. Some people think I can solve them.
Look. Alright, how long have I been muted? I hadn't realized, sorry about that. Yeah, I was trying to figure out what happens. Enjoy the scruff, I guess. Yeah, I'm back. Yeah, I was trying to figure out because I started to see that you were starting to say that I was muted. I didn't know what was going on. And yeah, it turns out something weird happened with my microphone. It just simply shut down. So I ended up having to unplug stuff. Yeah. So how long was I gone? What happened? I'm not sure when was the last time you heard me speak. When I started stirring the color? Oh, that's a while ago. So yeah, we stirred the color. I was trying to make sure that color matched. It feels a little bit too light colored for me. Can you see it over there? Yeah. So you might be, it's very subtle, but yeah, there is certainly a difference in tone between what I have inside the head and inside. So I'm just gonna add a couple extra drops of paint just so I match the color a bit better. Other than that, I don't remember exactly what happened or what I said during the stirring or after that. I was just talking about how you have to clean your airbrush every once in a while because you don't want it to clog, and if it clogs, you have to do a much more thorough cleaning, which ends up taking a lot more time and that sort of stuff. Not very complicated, but it can be a little bit repetitive maybe. So every time you apply a color, you have to take the color out, clean it up, run some cleaner through the airbrush, make sure everything's nice and clean, make sure you don't have any more cleaner inside of the airbrush because you don't want to apply cleaner on your piece, and then you're done. But it's something you have to do every time you change a color, so it does take a bit of time. Lighting fix slight color mismatch. it's a little bit tricky because color mismatch can be a big struggle because lighting can help you fix that sort of thing if all your colors have the same mismatch. But let's say if I made a perfectly white faced evil and I lit it so she looked the sort of pale skin tone she has, everything on her body would be affected by the same light that's painting the face. And maybe the skin tone might match now, but now the red in the ribbons are gonna be, it's gonna look weird. Or the white inside the eyes might look weird too. So it's best if you try to have everything as close as possible to the color you need. I mean, it's not really rocket science, you don't really need the exact color or it's not gonna work. I feel like most of the colors that I have used in the original video, they're not quite, especially with her clothes, because well, when the clothes are made, it's made with whatever color you manage to find, and it's not gonna be exactly the one that the image of Evil's model has, but you have to work with what you got. Well, it's best practice if you just try to make colors as close as possible. I've had times where I thought that was something I had very at the beginning, back when I was studying and stuff, that I said, hey, maybe this character is way too dark, but maybe I can just light it up with color correction or with digitally. But it's always, you move something and it will end up affecting something else, and the only solution to that would be to actually mask every single element of the color that actually is the color you want. It ends up being too much work that's not really worth it. So it's best to just try and be as close as possible with all the colors, just to make sure that you don't end up, you know, the post-processing or the extra work you put at the end of the production to delete the rigs and change the green screen, all that stuff. It's already enough work as is. So it's not a great idea to think on other things to solve in other parts of the pipeline. And if you're making your lighting to match a color or something, then you have to stop thinking and making your lighting to look pretty. You have sort of a first goal before making it look pretty, is that you have to make it match the other color. And stuff can get very complicated very quickly. It's just a bit of a struggle. Small important things. This with the eyes looks almost like an M. Which one? This one? Fish. I'm not sure what an arm fish is. I'll have to go later on. Right, so I'll just give a little bit more of a clean to the airbrush, and let's see if the color matches now. Right, so let's just put a little bit of paint in here. There we go. Once again, first the test to make sure it's coming out well. That looks fine. Now another test to see if we managed to match the color this time. Right, so we've got this, and let's see how it does. Let's give it some time.
Brothers of the mind, rejoice, swing, swing, swing with me. Raise your bacon, raise your voice, sing, sing, sing with me. Down and down into the deep. Who knows what
Wait, you never played Subnautica? I never saw that.
hidden in the mountain's door? Born under
Sounds fun. I remember watching a lot of people play Subnautica back then,
in the dark.
but I never saw.
Mountain home, skin made of iron. Steel in our bones. To dig and dig makes us real.
Never saw Evil play or newer playing Subnautica. It sounds fun.
The sunlight will not reach the snow. Deep, deep in the mine. Never seen the bloom and blow. Words won't fly so high. Fill a glass and down some meat. Stuff your bellies at
Clean up this. Make sure I'm not muted.
in our mountain keep.
And
Born underground.
try to do another round of cleaning.
Earth is our cradle. The mountain shall become our tomb. Face us on the battlefield. We will meet your doom. We do not fear what lies beneath. We can never dig too deep. I am a
Subnautica streams last year, so also well, started getting existential angst. Oh, I didn't see any of that I remember. I feel like I have seen some clips of her having existential angst, but I don't remember them being about or being while playing Subnautica. And was she the one playing, or was it Beetle playing and she was just looking at what he did? Yeah, that makes sense, because if it was yeah. I mean, she hasn't been able to play that many games yet, right? What has she played? Actually played. She's played Minecraft. She's played Buckshot Roulette. She's played chess. There's sort of a running joke about her playing Among Us, but she's never done that, right? That she's always trying to figure out. They're always trying to figure out how to make the code for her to play Among Us. I'm not sure how long has that joke been around, because there's not a lot of people playing Among Us anymore. Slay the Spire. Oh yeah, I remember that. There were a couple of clips of her playing Slay the Spire, and also, oh yes, Slay the Spire, and because even in Detroit Become Human and in Slay the Princess, it was more Vidal asking her to take the choices, but he was the one playing at the game itself, right? Oh yeah. Well, I've never seen the clips of her playing GeoGuessr, but I would guess that she would be great at that. I was seeing one today, but I didn't even finish it. I just saw a quick glimpse and then I had to go. I don't even know if it was Evil or Neural, but it was with Mega. They're making a lot of Mega collabs lately, right? It's really fun that from one drunk call, it ended up becoming material for the next weeks of streaming. I mean, Mega just feels like she really fell in love with the little twins. And maybe someone else. You didn't know I was trying to play it? Among Us? Yeah, it matches the timeline. But did she ever get to actually play it? I mean, the first game she ever played was Oslo, right? It's insane progress from... That was before the shopping spree, right? I had some stuff to work on and I couldn't see the... Or was it after the stream? Or it was another day? I might look at some geography clips then. Right, we can just start applying there. Crushing a Mega. Maybe.
夢見てること知ってるよ。でも君が本当に王子様だったなら、きっとドレスもガラスの靴も好きになれるはずなの。
Right. One tricky part about this is that you want the paint to... So even if the paint is not already fully... doesn't look perfect, you don't want to add too much paint in a single layer because then it might start forming sort of big blobs and drops of paint. So it's better you sort of apply a general coat, and even if there are some little spots where it feels like it still needs a little bit more paint, which usually around the corners and the edges, it's best to actually leave it for the next coat. And that hole that you had on the paint. Okay, feels like the paint is starting to clog again a little bit. There we go. Let's see what the problem is and try to fix it. Muting again? No. Alright. Maybe this time I was actually quiet.
here comes the danger up in this club. When we get started, man, we ain't gon' stop. We gon' turn it up till it gets too hot. Everybody sing hey yo. Tell them turn it up till they can't no more.
Right.
Let's get this thing shaking like a disco ball. This is your
Clean.
last morning.
Seems like we managed to make. Look, it's starting to clog in there, so not sure what's the quickest way to get this to work again. Paint into our cup every time. It might need a little bit more thinner. First we need to unclog this guy. Unclog. That's PTSD. Yeah. Sorry about that. It's weird. We never had that issue before, and now we had it twice. The good thing is that you have my little avatar for you to see if I'm actually speaking and stuff isn't working. Maybe it's the tip, because I haven't checked the tip in a while. Yeah, something that happens a lot, something that they call tip dry. That's when the paint just accumulates on the very tip of the airbrush, on the, both on the needle and on the edges of the, well, where the paint comes out. So might be part of what makes this. What's clogging this guy? Let's see. And that's something that I struggle at, because I feel like airbrush artists, they have this sort of instinct of cleaning the tip of the airbrush every couple of minutes maybe, but it sort of makes it, the piece on the top makes it a little bit hard to reach the needle itself. So I have to remove it and then check it. And only... Right, wait. Huh. I did see the OBS mute for sort of a second. I was speaking and it was not. But right now it's actually in sync with what I'm talking. I can see the bars going up and down. Weird. Right, feels like it's flowing much better. Yeah, but right now it seems like this sound is fine. Okay. So we've got this. I will add a little bit of thinner to our paint anyways, just to make sure it doesn't clog. Maybe dip it. Nah, I'm not sure if that's a good idea, because if you dip it, it's going to... So you'll have thinner on the tip when you start blowing air out. You would have to dip it and then sort of clean it with something, with a cloth, but I don't know, it doesn't sound... I don't know, something sounds off to me. It might... There's a problem there that's waiting to happen. My gut tells me there's something wouldn't work there. Well, I guess it also depends on which type of thinner you use. If you use a very corrosive one, it might even damage your your paint or your airbrush tip, but it's this airbrush thinner. Might work, but I'm not sure. Let's mix this guy up. Just a little bit more than do it for the gun. I feel like that's not really fun enough to do it for gun. Something that would be funnier would be, I don't know, sort of use preparing something in order for it to heat very much, or making a very risky mold. Seeing if the compressor might explode if I plug it. I don't know. I'm really bad at those sort of quick content ideas. It feels a bit thinner. Whoop. Almost dropped my paint there. Here, and see if it does a little bit better. Feels maybe a bit too thin. Oh well, give it a try. Usually tell you about that. I end up shaking the airbrush too much and dropping paint everywhere. Okay, it's fine. Not a big problem. We can't handle this. Just a couple of dabs and we move on. Alright. This guy. And go over there. There we go. Let's do that. And there's one too. Throw twirl at the wall. I don't have my camera pointing at the walls, that's the only problem. You'll have to imagine that part. But yeah, I could take some of my... Hello? Hey. Yeah, it feels like something's wrong with the mic. I have to take a look at what it is because it has this green light, and right as I saw the comment that it was muted, it had gone yellow. So I'm not sure what's going on. I just plugged it off and back on, and I feel like we're back, but I'm not sure for how long. Weird. This hadn't happened before. Had even longer streams than this one, and we never had that muting issue with this mic. Alright. Well, let's see. How long does it last this time? Well, so we have these. We need to wait for it to dry, just for the very edges. I don't want to run out of material. Alright, I'll give a quick clean to the brush, the airbrush, while this dries out. Still out? No. Maybe out for a minute. Alright. That's odd. Try to see what it is. Probably something in the user manual can give me a clue what that muting is. Stream conscious influence in screen. Then it will create a new. Maybe. Alright, let's put a cleaner in here. I've got the Beetle hackers looking at my stream and messing with my mic. Right. Oh. Alright, I'm not sure if you can hear me, but now my screen is pointing out that I disconnected from chat. Alright, chat is back onto my screen. I don't know what happened there, I've never seen that one. Well, bunch of fun issues today. Great. So, is it working? Never seen that message. The chat has disconnected. Weird that only the chat disconnects. Well, yeah, and you're still here. I don't know why it said that. It said the chat disconnected and then the chat is reconnected. I've never seen that before, especially because it's weird that the stream was still online and only the chat got offline. Never seen that. Right, so I'm just cleaning this little airbrush, cleaning the cup on top, trying to use very little amounts of the cleaner just to be efficient. You just need a couple of drops in order for you to pass the brush and clean, and then maybe then you can actually make the cup a little bit fuller when you're gonna run the airbrush. You're planning to run the cleaner through the airbrush itself. But the first layers, when you're just cleaning the cup, I really like to use just a little bit. That's more than enough. You might need 2 or 3 passes, but it's more than enough to get the cup clean really fast. Whoop. Ugh. Just made a mess. Okay. I think I'll add a couple extra drops of... Now that it's drying, I still feel her face a little bit too yellow. When you think the head and the mouths. Maybe it's because it's just been one layer on top of the white. Alright, I'll wait. I'll apply another layer. Because the color in here seems much richer than the one that we have right now on top of the picture. Yeah. So now you see why I didn't want to make sort of fully like what 40 or 60 mouth shapes. Fun, but it does take a long time to paint and to have it all right and to match the colors between ones and the others. That's why I wanted to be sort of efficient with these, just so we can get into animation. I really wanted to start with that instead of keep waiting. We can apply another layer. It feels still a little bit wet in some places. But I feel like those are the ones I painted last, so I can start with this guy, which already feels pretty much patched up since the hammering, but I'll give it another just in case. And so one layer to this one and a couple of layers to the rest. Go. I feel like this is one of the things that might be causing problems, that whenever I put the paint on the cup, I'm not stirring it, so maybe I'm just adding big blobs of paint that aren't very well dissolved. So yeah, I'm gonna give it a bit of a stir and let's see if this helps a bit more. Alright, let's see how it does. Also, you might see like there's a bunch of spots in my glove. I'm not sure if you've noticed before, and that's because whenever I'm trying to see if the airbrush has clogged or not, I'm just putting some like a little spot in my glove just to make sure it's actually flowing out of the airbrush. So yeah, that's why I'm sometimes full of spots when I'm working with this. Right, just a quick coat. Now, which was the second one I did? I think it was a closed one. Sure, if more than full use, just making sure it's like the easiest way to see if everything's alright, especially when you're already grabbing something and you want to drop it. So it's just like, alright, quick test. It's alright. Is it working? Yes? Okay, let's go. But yeah, I mean, most of the gloves, also gloves that I use for painting, tend to last much longer than the ones I use for mold making. So yeah, I can just have them stick by for a couple of sessions. Because paint doesn't damage the glove that much. But resin really screws them up.
Even if you let me go,
Well, number 2.
I want to hold you close.
Okay.
I want to keep feeling. I want to keep loving.
Paint tastes. It tastes like poison. It tastes a lot like poison. Almost dropped that one. Tasty poison? Probably alcoholic poison. It also might be the taste of becoming blind. Yeah, not really, no. Not very nice. But maybe I should. You have a good fair point there. It's fine. Alright, I think I've got a couple masks. And the back, just give me a second. I can go get one. Quick. Clean up. Yeah, for what I know of chemistry, it's that methyl alcohols are the ones that make you blind. Not sure exactly how it works, but yeah, they do. And that's also usually what they add to different chemicals in order for them to taste that. Alright, so can you hear me? Got a mask now. Hello? Feels a bit weird, but yeah, you're right. This is the right way to do things. Completely forgot about it earlier. Eh, okay. I feel like the edge of this is pretty much done. I think one last layer won't hurt. Alright, I'll wait for a bit for this to dry, then just one last layer. I think we'll be good to go. Sound is fine? Alright. As long as the mic doesn't die again. Cool. Alright, so I'm just gonna wait a little bit for these to dry. Add one extra layer. And I think that could be the end of tonight. Yep. Right. This. Giving the airbrush a bit of a quick clean, just so it doesn't glove while we're waiting. One thing I would really like to start playing with, if I ever start to have a bit more of a budget with all these projects, is starting to actually buy airbrush paint, because this is not really airbrush paint, it's just a simple acrylic paint mixed with the airbrush thinner, which I heard it works, but probably paint that's designed specifically for the airbrush will work best. However, yeah, they tend to be very pricey. They come in this very tiny bottles, which is fine because they can last you a long time. I know you only use a couple of drops when you're working, but still it's a lot of money for just a couple of milliliters of paint. At least for now I'm working, especially when you need I don't know, 20 different colors. Well, then it just racks up and you end up having to spend a lot of money. But yeah, that's something I would like to test if I ever manage to get more budget for this sort of thing. Which I... It's crazy numbers. But yeah, I can wait. Maybe later we'll get a bit more budget. So I'm gonna add a little bit more F cleaner. Just blast it out of this. And wait for this to dry. Done. So have you ever worked with Blacks 2.0, 3.0? Nope. I've never actually worked with those. I've been really interested on it because remember back when I was studying, I really liked the whole idea of Stuart Semple trying to fuck around with Anish Kapoor. That was really fun, and I remember I really liked all the weird things he did. That he had sort of a color changing paint, and yeah, Black 2.0. Back then it wasn't. He hadn't made Black 3.0. Oh yeah, it had so many different weird ideas, which I really enjoyed. But no, I've never tried it because it's all sort of a well, it always comes from the UK, right? He's based there, and shipping that to America is complicated and also expensive. But yes, I've thought about it. I would like to someday try it, but that's another thing that could wait for me to have more budget later on. Also, I'm not sure what would I use black 2.0 or 3.0 for. Maybe for rigs, but I'm not sure if having black rigs might be more of a problem than a solution. I might make some animation tests with black rigs and see if it helps. Also, the thing that happens with rigs is that the joints, well, they make friction against each other, so whenever you paint it with anything, it's just gonna shave the paint away in a very short amount of time, because, well, whenever the piece moves, it makes a little bit of friction and you run out of material, and same issue all the time. So that's why it sometimes can be troublesome. No, I know it's not the Vanta Black, but the guy who makes Black 2.0, the guy who made Black 2.0 deeply hates Anish Kapoor for the Vanta Black paints. So he made the paint and he specified that it's a paint that can be used by anyone except Anish Kapoor, who was trying to patent the Vanta Black recipe or something. So that's the whole beef that they had, which I found really funny. Then I'm not sure exactly what came first. I think I found out about the Black 2.0 paint. But yeah, that's sort of the fight between Stuart Semple, who's the guy who originally made Vanta Black, Black 2.0, and Anish Kapoor, who's just a pretentious bad sucker who doesn't like his Chicago bean to be called a bean. I don't know. I don't know that much of his personal story to judge him as harshly, but yeah, patenting a color, it's not very artistic.
As the world caves in.
Okay. Hello. There we go. That's the third time this happens today. I'm not sure why, but the microphone is dying every couple of minutes. It's weird. But hello, Krieger. Good to see you back. Yeah, my stream seems like it's already unmuted, so let me know once you start to listen to me again. Yeah. So hello. Good to see you again, Krieger. I was a bit concerned that you'd get into trouble from last stream. I even changed the name, so maybe you won't get in that much trouble this time. But yeah. So good to see you. Technical issues for a while today. Not sure why. I'll have a look and see what's going on. But yeah, just let me know if I mute again. The good thing is that if I mute, you can notice because the avatar keeps talking, but you can't hear me. So if that happens, you know I'm getting muted and something's wrong with the stream and it's just good old scum. But yeah. So yeah, we'll be just painting this. We began working on some angrier eyebrows for Evil. I'll show them in a minute. We also finished, well, just took out of the mold our final hair strand. So we're finally complete and we can start working on actually assembling the head. And yeah, applying a coat of paint. I'm not sure if I'm even working on camera. Can you see it? The polish looks very satisfying. Yeah, well, it's the wet paint that's applied. And then you just let it dry. And it sort of settles down, it shrinks a bit, and you end up with a pretty little face. So yeah, that's what we've been working on today. Just gonna clean the airbrush real quick because I don't want it to get stuck. And this is the angry, can you see it? Yeah, but you cannot see it. The angry eyebrow, not noticeable from there. Put it like this. Yeah, those are prototype angry eyebrows. The clay feels, it's already hard, but it's a little bit soft, so I might wait for it to dry a little bit more when I want to apply a second coat, a second layer, just to get a little more of an eyebrow shape, sort of shape the muscles of the inside of the brow whenever you sort of contract your eyebrows. When you're making an angry face, you can feel your muscles clumping up in the middle of your forehead. I feel like it still lacks those little lines and forms and shapes, so I'm gonna try to do that, but I guess I'm gonna be doing that probably tomorrow, because it's already getting a little bit late. I'm not sure how long that will take, because it's sort of those things that end up being very detail focused and I have to really concentrate and trying to figure it out. Like seeing the cartoon show. Huh. Maybe the color combination. Always end up with really weird color combinations because it's just whichever materials ended up falling into the mold. Because sometimes, right now this is sort of the neutral color of the resin. This sort of gray-ish brown. But sometimes I might be casting something that's, I don't know, pink. And I use that remainder pink color just to cast another mold because it's what I have. I'm not sure if you ever saw some of the mouths that they had black mouths, because whenever I made an eyebrow that's made with magnetic resin and it's black, I had a little bit to spare, so I poured just the drops that were left in the cup into the mold of the mouth, just so I could use a little bit. So just to take advantage of the resin. But yeah, some of them, whenever they're not painted, they have a lot of black spots at the front. Yeah, sometimes weird things happen with the resin and the materials. Right now, well, I have green lying around to make the epoxy for the eyebrows. You end up making really weird mixes and matches. So, sure this is well clean. Can you see it? Like yeah, because the airbrush is at the edge of the table, it might be hard to actually show a lot of what I do, but it's not really that complicated. I just pass the brush inside, roll the paint out, and sort of do that a couple of times, and then I just run it, like let the cleaner go through. Then we're good to go. Before you just narrow the time, so never to go with the weather. Because I've seen that there's some crazy internet investigations surrounding, but I might, if I ever get too concerned, I might start throwing fake clues and make people get confused. But yeah. Good to know. Still automaton. Yeah. Yeah, all that doxing stuff is really crazy in the internet. Really insane how much trouble can someone cause with just letting their address be known. Sure, yeah, you got me. I'm right in Madrid. Really? But I feel like in order for you and I to actually know the church, I mean, if someone told me Saint John Baptist Church, I wouldn't know at all where that is because there are sort of a million churches, right? I think where could be used to know? Brazil. I was gonna say yes to all of it, so yes, in Brazil. So we want to go to Brazil. Right, so one final check to see if this guy is properly clean, or if it's got some tip dry left. It's not letting the cleaner flow. Oh. No, I already dropped some bigger clues than my time zone actually. And a couple of things I said, I think today. But yeah, try to be careful with that, I guess. It's never... I think this is already clean enough. The cleaner is flowing well. Yep, pretty well. Yeah, I guess our airbrush is good. Alright, so what do you think, guys? First, let me see, lighting off. Yeah, that's... well... but how many storms do you have in Canada at the same time? I don't think there's usually just one storm in the whole country at the same time, right? Probably bunch of them, but yeah, you can narrow it down. For I've seen people do some crazy stuff. There was this, I think it was something weird about trying to take down a live stream by Shia LaBeouf from all people, and they ended up finding it through a fly that landed on the background of the video, and the type of fly and the shadow it casted somehow gave them a clue of in which region of the world it was. That was some insane intelligence from the internet trying to figure out. Really? So there's usually one storm in a country at a time? That's crazy. I never thought about that. I always thought, yeah, storms would be, I don't know, if it's raining somewhere, you would have rain. If it's a big country, at least in 3 or 5 different parts, I don't know. It's rainbow stuff. Well, yeah, I guess that's a little bit more specific, having thunderbolts rather than simple rain. It's so crazy to think about. I've never thought about how much, how frequently that happened at the same time in different places. But alright, then I guess I'll be more careful with whatever I say about the weather. Good to know. Yeah, there's so crazy stories about people finding stuff because of very tiny details, but by that point I feel like there's not much you can do, right? It's not like you're not gonna eat anymore, you're not gonna be... well, you could stop posting the stuff, but that's sort of sad, right? Not being able to share what you want because you might get found. Well, that's just the internet, I guess. Let's see how stuff develops. But well, alright then. So, what do you say, guys? Maybe we can call it a night for today. US typically has strips of storms. Sometimes your city might have the only storm. I guess maybe you can narrow it down after 2 or 3 times that you get a storm. Like if it's raining today and there's 3 places that it's raining, and then it's raining another day and there's another different 3 places, you can find the one that's matching in both cases, and that helps you narrow down. But it's too much work. Why would you do that? You need 12 bodyguards at all times. Yes. I don't know how to avoid being that. Right, I'll try to take care of that. I'm not that much of a weatherman, so I'm not sure that if I'm gonna be able to. I feel like even if I didn't know, I wouldn't really mind. I usually don't mind about the weather, so I don't talk about it a lot. But good to know and to be careful. Alright guys, so what do you say? Maybe we can call it a night today and we can go back to this on Saturday. So are Saturday streams working for you? Because, well, no, the last one did work. It was the Tuesday one that maybe some people had a hard time reaching. I'm not sure. I'm just trying to know if time zones, or not time zones, but if the dates we choose this streams to do are fine with you, and how are things going. What I would like to start to plan out and maybe talk with you is that what I'm thinking for animation streams, because those are probably gonna need a lot more time, those I'm really thinking of making them sort of all day Saturday. Where times on the Argentina. I'm in Madrid, Argentina, and Brazil at the same time. I am everywhere. But yeah, so just start taking that into consideration. I'm just gonna make sure that whenever we start, still a bit of yeah, but all days are not this Saturday. We're still a little bit far away from animation, but just start thinking about it. And I mean, you don't need to be the whole stream logged on, but I believe that I will be needing to animate all day long if I really want to make a significant amount of animation, because yeah, it takes time, and I wouldn't like to just make half a second of work in a day. So that's what we're gonna be probably having. You can figure out if you wanna join or not, or well, whichever times you would like to join. I'll be open all day and happy to see each and every one of you join whenever you want. But yeah, I mean, still not very well thought out, and it's still not really written in stone, because I'm not sure when we're gonna be finishing this, but they are gonna be fun. I feel like animation is gonna be really, really fun. So, all right. Well, then let's end this for tonight. I'm gonna be thinking on what else I need and how can we move on, what to do probably next week. And yeah, let's start. Yeah, animation's approaching. It is coming. All right. Well, take care, everyone. Hope to see you again. We're going to be back on Saturday, just working on some workshop stuff, probably finishing some expressions, more painting, that sort of stuff. Still a bit relaxed. I'm gonna see also when we start to assemble the head. And yeah, we'll see where it goes from there. All right, take care, everyone. Thanks for coming by, and see you next time. Bye. Wait, I just saw that comment. I don't know how to rate. I need to learn how to do that. But that's something I'm gonna have to learn probably later. Anyway, we'll eventually be rating people. See ya!